Jackson, Mississippi.
Your confidence, take a ride. It's wealth and wisdom, time will rise. The educated team sharing the wealth, building things you should do. From trust to banking, it's all a must. Your guide to wealth is learning to trust. Legacy matters, secure it right. Dreams take shape with every insight. Wills and assets, life insurance plans, building for your future with expert hands. Sometimes money and more, building wealth with knowledge galore. Asset protection plans to grow, to read and watch your dreams overflow. From saving today to trust for life, breaking generational wealth divides. Healthcare directives, banking tips, we're here to help your fortune eclipse. From saving today to trust for life, breaking generational wealth divides. Healthcare directives, banking tips, we're here to help your fortune eclipse. And now it's time to learn, so wisdom's your return. Invest, protect, and thrive for sure. Signing off is Soul Talks Money and More.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is time to rise and shine for another edition of Soul Talks Money and More. I am your host, Dr. Sabrina Edmon Williams, educator, author, investor, opening minds and closing contracts. I am so noted, and I am so delighted to be here this morning at Soul Talks Money and More, where we are always educating, enlightening, informing, and empowering our community. Now, I need you to listen up this morning. Get on up, because I got some stuff to say. We got some things to talk about. I need you to grab your coffee. I got mine. Go ahead and grab that coffee. Call a friend, text a friend. This is a show, an episode that they are not going to want to miss. I want you to lean in this morning, because this is not going to be one of those light surface level conversations. April is Financial Literacy Awareness Month. And while many people are out here telling jokes and pranks and laughing, we're going to be doing something different here on Soul Talks Money and More. We're going to be learning, we're going to be reflecting, and most importantly, we are going to be growing, because April is not for fools, it is for financial literacy. So again, I need you to get up, wake up, put some water on your face, do whatever you need to do, because you are not going to want to miss this conversation this morning. And I want to be very clear on something. Financial literacy is not just about knowing how to balance a checkbook or understanding what your credit score is. All right, that's surface level stuff. You can go to anybody's show and find out how to do those things. So no, we are not going to be talking budgeting, balancing checkbooks, and how to fix your credit. We'll have that conversation another day. But this month, we are going to take a deep dive into some very important issues around financial literacy that many of us don't talk about. And that's the problem. We are not having conversations about these things. So I'm going to step out there on that limb, and I'm going to open up the door, and we're going to have some conversations. So again, welcome to the show. If you're just tuning in, good morning to my YouTube and Facebook viewing audience, and always to my WMPR 90.1 FM listening audience. I am glad to have you join me today. I also got to start by saying good morning to my co-pilot over there, Mr. Larry Armstrong in Studio A. Good morning, Mr. Armstrong. I need you to lean in this morning too, because we're going to talk about some stuff. And I know this conversation this morning is going to hit many of us, okay? Financial literacy. Again, April is Financial Literacy Awareness Month. And financial literacy is about behavior. So we got to talk about some of these behaviors that many of us are exhibiting. It's about discipline. Okay, you ready for this one? It's about character. It's about how we show up when money is involved. And today, we're starting this month with a conversation, again, that many people avoid, but almost everyone has experienced. That's the thing. We are not being honest. We're not being open, and we're not being truthful about money and money conversations. So what are we talking about this morning, Dr. Williams? Well, I'm glad you asked. We are talking about lending and borrowing money. That's right. We're talking about lending and borrowing money. And we're not just going to talk about this from a theoretical standpoint either. We're going to talk about this from a lived, real, and sometimes uncomfortable perspective. Because if we're going to build, if we're going to protect, and if we're going to properly transfer wealth, we must first learn how to properly handle what passes through our hands. Again, let me say that again. If we are going to build, protect, and properly transfer wealth, we got to first learn how to properly handle what passes through our hands. So if you're just tuning in, if you're just getting up, come on, grab that coffee. I need you to go with me this morning because we got some stuff to talk about. So let's begin with lending, okay? This is personal for me because I have I borrowed a lot of money in my lifetime, and I have loaned a lot of money in my lifetime. And I tell you, sometimes those situations turned out well, and many times they did not. So these lessons, again, are lived and learned lessons that we can all, and we should all benefit from. Because for many of us, lending is tied to love. It's tied to relationships. It's tied to loyalty, history, and sometimes it's even tied to obligation. Now, let me say something that may sit heavy with some people. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Let me say this. Just because you have it does not mean you are required to lend it. Somebody needs to hear that. Dr. Williams needed to hear that at many times along this life journey. Just because you have it does not mean you are required to lend it. Okay? Just because you have it does not mean you're required to lend it. Just because lending is not just a financial decision, it's an emotional and a relational decision. Lending is not only a financial decision, it's emotional and relational. And if you don't approach it wisely, it can cost you more than money. It can cost you peace. It can cost trust. It can sometimes even cost relationships. Now, I want to bring this close to home. As I minister to others, I minister unto myself. So I'm going to bring it close to home because I don't ever want to stand in a place of teaching without also standing in a place of truth. I've had my own struggles with money. Okay. I've had my struggles with lending money. I've been in situations where I gave not out of abundance, but because I cared about folks. I wanted the best for them. I didn't want to see folks struggling. So where I said yes, not because it was convenient, I said yes because someone needed me, or I perceived that they needed my help. And I believed them when they said, I'll pay you back. How many times, Mr. Armstrong, have we heard that? I'll pay you back. And usually it's followed with, I'll pay you on Friday. And every week has a Friday, and that Friday comes and goes many times, and people don't honor their word. They do not do what they say they are going to do. And when that happens, or when it didn't happen, when they did not honor what they said, it didn't just create a financial gap, it created an emotional one, because there's something deeply disappointing about being willing to show up for someone and then watching them fail to show up for you. Let me just say that again, because some of y'all out there owe some folks some money. Some of y'all out there owe me some money. There is something deeply disappointing about being willing to show up for someone and then watching them failed to show up for you, not because they couldn't, just because they didn't prioritize it. And I want us to sit with that word for a moment. Priority, because repayment is not always about ability. Sometimes it's about priority. Yes, it's about priority. And I'm going to pause right there and we're going to talk about that for just a moment. We do what we prioritize. We say we don't have any money, and a lot of times we don't. But there are many of us that do what we prioritize. Think about it. The fair comes to town. We want to take the kids, the grandkids. We want to go. We make that a priority, not realizing that their rent is going to roll around in a few days. That's not a priority at that moment. So I want us to just think about that. People make time for what matters to them. People allocate resources towards what matters to them. And when repayment keeps getting pushed to the side, it sends a message. It sends a message. Now, I know some people may say, well, you shouldn't have loaned them the money if you couldn't afford to lose it. And yes, I agree. There is wisdom in that. But let me add something to that conversation. Even when you can afford to lose the money, it doesn't mean you can afford to lose the principle. Even when you can't afford it. Because when we normalize not repaying what we borrow, we're also normalizing irresponsibility. We should not be normalizing that. Well, you had it, that little old money, it wasn't nothing for you. No. It's not for you to tell me what is something to me. Okay? That's irresponsibility on your part. And that has generational consequences, right? And it's not just about you. Your children are watching how you handle or mishandle other folks and money. It has generational consequences. Now, here's something that always amazes me. You know, I hear people say, especially people that come to me, well, Dr. Williams, I couldn't find anyone to loan me any money. Nobody would help me. I'm out here trying to do this and I'm trying to do that. Nobody out here, this whole big old world, millions and millions of folks, and ain't nobody out here willing to help me. And every time I hear that, I pause, and especially now that I really truly have seen folks and how they mishandle your money, I pause because I understand something that we don't always say out loud, okay? And Dr. Williams is here to tell you what the problem is. Please receive it in the spirit in which it is given. I'm giving it to you the way it was given to me. That statement, when you say, I can't find nobody to help me, nobody to loan me any money, that statement usually comes with a history because people who have that statement or make that statement have generally demonstrated irresponsibility. That means they have not honored their word in the past. That means they have not communicated when things have changed. People who do these things, they have access. But when access is limited, it often reflects a pattern that others have observed in you. So if you're wondering why don't nobody want to loan to you, nobody wants to help you, nobody wants to give you anything, I'm going to say this as compassionately as I can, but I want to be clear on something. People don't stop lending for no reason. People don't stop lending for no reason. They stop lending because they learned something. They learned something about how money was handled or mishandled. They learned something about how communication was managed or mismanaged. They learned something about how commitments were or were not honored. I need to say that again, because this is the part right here. I see a few people joining the conversations, and I don't want you to miss this part. I got to say what I got to say, and I got to get out of here this morning because I have another obligation. I need to say this again. Play this part back. If you don't send this whole clip to anybody else, just play this for them. People don't stop lending for no reason. They stop lending because they learn something about you and how you either handle or mishandle what was given to you, how you communicated. Was your communication managed or mismanaged? Were your commitments honored or mishonored? Now, I want to take this deeper and bring in a principle that I teach in my Learning to Trust framework. Let's talk about something. And I'm going to go here. You know, we just celebrated Easter on yesterday. Dr. Williams just released a new edition of her book, Learning to Trust, Biblical Principles, Biblical Wisdom for Building, Protecting, and Transferring Wealth. I got all this stuff in the book. Go on and go over to my website and get the book. Maybe you might learn something. And if it doesn't benefit you, I'm sure you got somebody in your circle that is mismanaging, mishandling money. Okay, it'll benefit them. Give it to them for a birthday gift, Christmas present. Somebody needs to hear this word. God didn't give this to me just for me. Somebody else needs this word too. So let's talk about the parable of the talents for just a minute, because this is not just a biblical story. This is financial literacy lessons wrapped in spiritual wisdom. Okay? This is financial literacy. In this parable, we might recall resources were entrusted to 3 different individuals, and they didn't get an equal amount, but the distribution was intentional. Each person was expected to do something with what they were given. They weren't just given the money or the resources. They were expected to do something with it. Now, 2 of them took what they received and they multiplied it. Y'all know the story. We went to Sunday school, okay? We remember they multiplied it. They managed it. They respected it. As y'all young folks would say, they understood the assignment, okay? They understood that what they had was not just for consumption. It was for stewardship. And because they handled it well, what happened? You may recall, they were entrusted with more. Does that sound familiar? Because they managed it well, because they handled it well, they were entrusted with more. But that one, you know, there's always going to be one in the crowd. That one who did absolutely nothing. You know, that's that same one that's running around talking about, I can't find nobody to help me. I can't find nobody to loan me anything. That one did absolutely nothing with what was given to them. That one who buried what was given. When it was time to give an account, he had nothing to show. And the issue was not just that he didn't grow it. The issue was that he mishandled the responsibility. Now I'm going to bring this on home because I know some of you out there that may just be joining the conversation. What in the world does this have to do with financial literacy? I thought April was Financial Literacy Month. Okay, well, let's bring this conversation home. Let's bring this into today's conversation. When someone lends to you, when they loan something to you, they are entrusting you with a resource. And how you handle that resource tells them everything they need to know about whether they can trust you again. It tells them everything they need to know about you. It tells them everything they need to know about your character, okay? So when we lend, we must do so wisely, and we must do so prayerfully. We must also do so with discernment. That's a word for some of us, you guys. I prayed in 2025 for God to give me discernment about how to use the resources with which he has entrusted me. Because Every act of lending is also an act of trust, and trust is not something to be taken lightly. It's not something to take lightly. I need somebody to hear that this morning, because some of you are like Dr. Williams. You have entrusted people with your resources, and some of us are not handling that trust properly. Some of us have mishandled that. So normally, I'm looking at the clock. Normally, I would go to a break to around the half hour mark. But if you're just joining the show, as I mentioned, I've got to leave a little early today. I have another responsibility. So I've talked to my co-pilot over here, and I think we on the same page of music, the same sheet of music. We're going to keep this thing going. I want to welcome those of you to the show who are just tuning in. This morning, we are talking about financial literacy. April is Financial Literacy Awareness Month. Okay, so that means those of us that are in this space that are trying to educate, enlighten, and empower our communities, we are talking about financial literacy. But as I mentioned, I'm not talking about this from the standpoint of how to balance your checkbook, how to fix your credit. No. We're going deep this month. We are going deep. God has given me some things. He's dropped some things in my spirit. Somebody needs to hear this. So I'm going to give it to you the way it was given to me. Now, if you're just joining the conversation this morning, we're talking about lending and borrowing. Oh, yeah. I got some things to say about that because somebody needs to hear this. So go ahead this morning, call a friend. Go on and call your friends. If you don't have time to watch the entire show this morning, I understand some people may have to leave, may have other obligations. We are streaming live to Facebook, and we also on YouTube, so you can share this episode later. Somebody needs to hear what we are saying. Okay, now we're going to shift for a moment over to the other side of lending, and that is borrowing. Let's shift right here, because while lending carries responsibility, borrowing carries accountability. I'm going to say that again. While lending carries responsibility, borrowing carries accountability. And I want to be very direct right here. Borrowing money is not casual. It's not informal. It is not something to be taken lightly. Borrowing is entering into an agreement. Whether or not it is written or simply spoken, whether it is documented or understood, it is an agreement. And at the center of that agreement is your word. Now, I want you to think about this. Ask yourself, we're going to make this personal, each and every one of us. Let's make this personal. What is your word worth? Is it worth anything? What is your word worth? Because when you borrow, you are saying, I give you my word that I will repay this. And if that word is broken, it doesn't just impact that moment, it impacts your reputation. It impacts your credibility, not just your credit, your credibility. It impacts your future access. Now, let me say something that may be difficult for some of us, but God knows it's necessary. If you are borrowing money and not repaying it, that is not just a financial issue. That is a character issue. Some of us need to stop praying and asking God to bless us with more resources. Some of us need to start praying and asking God to bless us with more character. That's a character issue when you borrow and you don't repay people. And I don't say this to condemn. No, I say it to correct us. You know, when you love folks, you got to tell them the truth, even when it's hard for them to hear. And that doesn't matter if it's me, you, or anybody else. So I'm not saying this. We're not having this conversation to condemn. Some of us need some correction because we're mishandling resources that are being entrusted to us. Now, financial literacy is not just about understanding money. it's also about becoming someone who can be trusted with money. I want you to think about that. We pray sometimes and we ask God to bless us with more and expand our territory. You know, y'all don't hear, we all pray the prayer of Jabez, expand my territory, Lord. Give me more resources. If only I had more. But the question is, what are we doing with what we do have? Are we even managing what we have properly? And then we had a nerve to ask God for more. Give me more so I can do what with? More so I can mishandle, more so I can be more irresponsible, more. Okay. Now, I want to say something. I got to acknowledge something because I know there's somebody in the back that's just sitting there thinking, well, Dr. Williams, you know, life happens to all of us. I get it. Hey, I get it. Because life is kicking my tail right now. Life happens to all of us. Unexpected situations arise, emergencies occur, and sometimes, even despite our best intentions, we fall short. We fall short. But here's where character shows up. Here's where character shows up. Even when life happens, how do you handle that? Do you communicate? Do you take responsibility? Do you make an effort to honor your commitment, even if it takes longer than expected? Because silence, that's not a strategy. Avoidance is not a solution. And disappearing does not erase the obligation. Just because you disappear, just because you block folks, just because you stop talking to folks, you fall out. Isn't it amazing, Mr. Armstrong? Folks don't never get mad with you before they ask you for your money. But as soon as they get your resources, now they mad all of a sudden. Now they done forgot your number. They don't know how to contact you. They knew how to contact you when it was time to get the money. They go out of their way to find you. They'll come to your house. They'll come to your job. They'll blow up your inbox just to get the resources. Yes, indeed. But when it's time to repay folks start having nervous breakdowns. Folks start going through depressions. Folks start falling on hard times. I mean, ooh, Jesus, I've heard it all. If I've heard one, I've heard 1,000 times. All these problems that folks have when it comes time to repaying the obligations. We have reasons why. And so we avoid people. We stop talking to people. We block them. We disappear. Disappearing does not erase the obligation. Somebody needs to hear that. Come on, Facebook. Come on, YouTube. Talk to me. Somebody needs to hear that. Let me help you. Let me help you to understand something. Even when you die, your estate happens to go through probate. Guess what probate is? Probate is simply an announcement to the world that you are no longer of this world. And if you died owing anybody anything, here's your chance now. Speak up. Speak up, because this person had an estate over here. And we're going to do whatever is necessary to make sure that you're good, you're whole. So even dying does not erase that obligation if you left some assets behind. Come on, somebody needs to hear that and somebody needs to understand that. Disappearing does not erase the obligation. If anything, it deepens the issue. Now let's take this even further. Sometimes the most financially literate decision that you can make is not to borrow at all. Let me say that again. Sometimes the most financially responsible decision you can make is to say no to borrowing. To say, I need to reassess. I need to plan better. I need to build before I start requesting. Because borrowing is not a tool, it's a tool. It's a tool. It's not a habit. It's not a habit. It should not become a habit. It's a tool. And if I'm being honest, come on, let the investor in you talk to you. It should be a tool for building wealth. Go back to the parable. What did two of those individuals that were entrusted with resources do? They used it, they multiplied it, they built something. It is a tool for building, not a habit. And it should be strategic, not emotional. It should be approached with a plan. A plan. When we go to folks asking them for their money, what is our repayment plan? Try going to the bank. They want to know how you going to repay me. What is your plan? Do you have the resources? Some of y'all, your plan is I'm going to pay you on Friday again, and that Friday never comes. Why? Because you have not prioritized, you have not strategized, you have not allocated the resources to ensure that you are able to honor that obligation. Now, let me tie this back to legacy. Because everything we do with money is either building or breaking something for the next generation. So when you don't pay me back, when you don't pay the bank back, when you don't pay others back, it has generational impact. You're taking money not just from me and my household, but you're taking money from my future, my grandchildren, my children's children. You know, those people that we're supposed to be leaving an inheritance for? That's what you're doing when you don't honor your borrowing obligations. So when we borrow and repay, we must do so with integrity. Okay? We must build trust, build credibility, build access. And I got to say this again, for those of you that are just joining me, just tuning in, if there is nobody out there that will loan to you, that is because you have not built trust, you have not built credibility, you are not honoring your obligations. Therefore, you have no access. You have none. Now, I'm telling you what your grandmama and your mama Nim should have told you. This is Financial Literacy 101. Welcome to my class. Class is in session. I am Dr. Sabrina Edmon Williams. I am your instructor for the next 4 weeks here on So Talks Money and More. We're going to be talking financial literacy awareness. But no, we are not talking budgeting. No, we are not talking balancing checkbooks. No, we are not talking about fixing your credit score. None of that. We're talking real life, real world application. So I need you to take this and do something with it. If it's not for you, God knows there's somebody in your circle that needs to hear this morning. Okay? So we're trying to teach our community how to borrow responsibly, how to honor our obligations. Because when you don't repay me, I can't help the next person. It's your turn this time, but the next person that comes along may need some help too. So you take away my ability to be able to help somebody else when you don't do what you're supposed to do. Okay? We need to understand that. We don't just close the doors for ourselves. We influence how people respond to others who come after us. If you don't repay, then folks looking at the next person side-eyed. Not just me. The banks do the same thing. If you don't, how do you think they determine their lending standards? They determine it based on history. Some of us are confused. We think, oh, because I'm this color, or because I'm a woman, or because I'm young, or because we factor in all of those things. And I'm not here to debate that. This is not what this show is about. Maybe some of those things do matter. But people also look at your word. Are you honoring your word? Are you repaying what you owe? Are you doing that? Let's make this personal, not about what somebody else is not doing. The question becomes, what are we doing or not doing? Because how we handle our responsibility, it doesn't just close doors for us, it closes doors for those that come behind us. It shapes people's perceptions, expectations, and it impacts opportunities for others. And that is why today's conversation matters so much, because we're not just making individual decisions. These decisions are not isolated. They become part of our community, part of our legacy. And how we handle money today will echo tomorrow. It will have generational impact. Somebody needs to hear that. Somebody needs to know that how we handle or how we mishandle things today will have generational impact. So I'm watching the clock. If you're just tuning in, I'm sorry. Dr. Williams had to come say what she had to say, and she got to get on up out of here because I got somewhere to go today. But I got to give you some closing thoughts before I go. As we move through Financial Literacy Awareness Month, I want to challenge each of us to go deeper. Go deeper. Not just to learn more, but to become more. You remember First Lady Michelle Obama has a book out called Becoming. Let's become more. Now, if you are the one, this message is for somebody. If you are the one that's mishandling and that does not want to take accountability for how you are mismanaging someone else's resources, try to become more. Use this message as your wake-up call to become more, because I assure you, when you become more, when you do more, you will have more access. I promise. Some of us wondering why we stuck, why we can't grow, why we can't build. Nobody won't help me. Nobody won't loan me anything. It's because you have limited your access with how you handled other people's resources. Now, to become more, we want to become more disciplined, more intentional, more accountable. Hold me accountable. If I owe you some money, I don't mind being held accountable. I owe folks right now. I acknowledge that. I was in community bank just last week. I owe those folks money. That's why I always tell my tenants, whether you pay me or not, I still have an obligation to the bank. Somebody needs to hear that and understand that today. You running around here talking about, well, they got it. They may have it, but they may also have obligations that need to be taken care of. Let's become more accountable. Let's become more trustworthy. Because at the end of the day, money flows where trust goes. Say that again, because I don't want you to miss that. Money flows where trust goes. Some of y'all don't have nothing flowing through your hands because there's no trust there. Money flows where trust goes. And if we want to build, protect, and properly transfer wealth, we must first become people who can be trusted with it. Now, this month, it's not just about information. This month is about transformation. So I invite you to join me throughout the month. We're just getting started over here. Dr. Williams, I got it all worked out, all planned out. Like I say, I documented it the way the good Lord gave it to me. And I'm going to give it to you just that way. So I need you to tune in, engage in the conversations, reflect on your own habits, and make the changes that will not only impact your life, but generations to come. Because when trust matters, I need you to learn how to trust. That's what we over here trying to teach you. Learn how to trust. Now, before I go, I told you I got to slide out of here. But before I go, I got to give a shout out to my girl, Miss Chantal Taylor. Chantal Taylor, who is over at Legacy Magazine of Mississippi, the Legacy Magazine. Got to give a shout out to her. She is featuring Dr. Williams on her April cover. And as I understand that will be dropping this morning at 10 a.m. So please go over to Legacy Magazine of Mississippi. The digital copy is available. They have print copies that are available. Dr. Williams is being featured on the April cover. And I thank you for the feature, Miss Taylor. Thank you so much. And I thank you to my listening audience for all of your support, whether you're joining us by YouTube, Facebook, and of course, my love is for my WMPR 90.1 FM listening audience. I want to thank you for tuning in today. I am your host, Dr. Sabrina Edmon Williams, educator, author, and investor, opening minds and closing contracts. I am so noted. Until next time, be wise, be intentional, and take care of what has been entrusted to you. Peace.